For the first one here, we're gonna make butternut squash and buttermilk biscuits. So this, I think the smell of bread in the morning is probably one of the most comforting smells ever. So
and scientifically proven to enhance your appetite.
there you go. So we're making it with butternut squash, but if you want to use pumpkin, if you want to use like even pumpkin puree, like the 100% canned pumpkin puree, you can use that in here. You can use any different type of squash. Any sort of puree would work for this. We like butternut squash. I know we're kind of phasing out of that winter, so this is like probably the last time we'll use it, maybe, and then and get some more spring ingredients in. But I want to show you a really quick, easy way. I know with some people, you know, with even some caregivers that might not be used to cooking in the kitchen, or a lot of people might not know how to approach this. It is a harder vegetable. It's not the easiest to cut. So this is just a really quick, easy tip on how to roast it without really needing to cut it, or at least at the beginning. So what we do is take your whole butternut squash, we preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, poke it a few times with a fork or back of a knife, just you want to pierce it a little bit. If you don't do this, it will explode on you. Don't want to scare you from it, but you just want to pierce it a few times so it allows the moisture to escape.
You want the steam to have somewhere to go.
And then just put it whole on a baking sheet in the oven. Now this takes a little bit of time. It takes about an hour, 15 minutes, just until it's nice and soft, but it's worth it. And you can do like 2 or 3 of these, and then you put it into the freezer. You save it. Save all that. Okay, so now on to the recipe. This is a pretty simple one. You can get your hands dirty, or you can use a mixer. Chris agreed to get her hands dirty, so I said let's do it. So we start off with our flour mixture. I just added our baking soda, baking powder. The amounts are on there, and it's a little pinch of salt. I'm going to use sage, just some fresh sage that I chopped up. I love sage in the oven, but you can use rosemary, you can use thyme. If you want to make it spicy, you can add a little cayenne if you wanted to it. I go a little heavy on the sage, because I like it. And then last spice, nutmeg. You can get nutmeg already ground. I like the flavor and just the aroma of freshly ground nutmeg. And what I use is, this is a microplane or a rasp. I use this for a lot of things. I suggest get one. They're pretty cheap, like 10, 12 bucks. We use it for zesting, we use it for cheese, we use it for whole spices.
Garlic and ginger
Garlic
even.
And ginger. Yeah, really, really nice way to grate. With the ginger, it's nice because it keeps the fiber behind, and you just get that pulp underneath. So I'm just going to grate a little bit on. Nutmeg is pretty powerful. It's a nice warming spice. You can add a little cinnamon in there if you wanted. It was really nice. So that's it. I'm just going to stir that through. And for proper biscuits, anyone's made proper biscuits, key ingredient is butter. Lots of butter, buttery biscuits. You can use butter. I mean, if that's what you want. If you're looking to have a little bit of a higher calorie count, then use butter. I wanted to try a couple different methods to use, some healthier fats, and you can do what you want at this point. So the reason use butter is because you need it to be solid. And I'm going to show you. You're going to make little crumbles with the flour and that fat, so that when you bake it, as soon as the heat hits those little crumbles, it creates steam pockets, and that's how you get that flakiness, that nice soft biscuit. Because I wanted to use extra virgin olive oil. I think olive oil with this biscuit will work well. Is freeze it ahead of time. So about 20 minutes. And what you get,
I love this technique because he took a beautiful heart-healthy fat or oil and made it more of a solid fat.
So not solid. It's like a gel, and you can see it's kind of like soft butter, and it works just as well. I tried it out. It works just as well, and you have the really nice kind of savoriness because it's a savory biscuit. We're doing about a 1/4 cup here.
So you're still getting the calories that you would if you use butter or a different type of fat, but you're going for a healthier version that's heart healthy. There's lots of news out there about the Mediterranean diet and going for more olive oil because it's not as inflammatory as a lot of the fats that we tend to use here in North America. It's a great healthy option.
Now you can use, I have the option there as well. I tried it with coconut oil as well because it's solid and it works as well. Coconut oil, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about it. We always talk about it. It is a saturated fat, so you do want to use it in moderation. And so what you want to do is be very gentle with this and create these like little kind of pellets.
I always
flour.
see in recipes, they always say until it's pea-sized
Until it's pea-sized,
amounts.
exactly. Pea-sized or crumbly. And
Or pellets.
So
I like
it's-
how you use.
yeah, it's not like one of those recipes where everything's got to be equally combined through. You want it to be very crumbly. That's the idea for this biscuit. And very, very simple. You just, get your hands in there. Sorry, so that's what we're looking like. So you can see all those like little crumbles in there. That's the flour. So flour's done. And then the wet ingredients, 2 ingredients. So we have our butternut squash, a cup, and buttermilk. There's half a cup of buttermilk. You can find buttermilk in most grocery stores. Buttermilk is a lower fat option, it's 1%. But if you want to use regular milk, you can use regular milk. The only reason you use buttermilk is it gives it a nice little kind of twang, a nice little zip. So that's it, just mixing it through. If you want it like super pureed, you can put it in the food processor or blend it. I kind of like the little pockets and the little chunks of butternut squash you get in there. And that's it. I should have started out with a bigger bowl. Always start out with a bigger bowl. I always do.
Too many dishes.
So bigger bowl.
We're all about minimizing the amount of dishes that you have to wash afterwards.
Yeah, that never happened. But the only rule, I mean, I don't bake a lot because of all the rules. But the only rule that you kind of have to stick to is dry into wet. It just makes your life a lot easier instead of going wet into dry. So do you want to slowly pour that in? And we're just combining just until all the wet is in there. So I started with 2 cups. You're going to end up with a pretty wet dough. It might need a little bit more, so play with it, and I'll show you what it should look like.
So don't go too fast in case it's not the right texture.
Yeah, I mean, you might need more. You won't need less, just depending on your ratio of flour. So a whole wheat flour or heartier flour will absorb more moisture. If you're going more on the all-purpose side, more the refined side, you might need a little bit more to absorb that moisture.
Now at this point, if you did want to up the calories, you could put some grated cheddar cheese and have like a yummy cheesy biscuit. And that would be another idea. You could put, really any type of cheese that you enjoy. And that's a good way to get some extra protein into the recipe too.
That's perfect.
Good.
So I'm going to just flour the surface really quick. Now this recipe makes about 16 biscuits, small size biscuits. But, like all our recipes today, they freeze.
Should have powdered my hands.
They freeze really well. So if you wanted to, double or triple this batch and then pop the rest into the freezer, you just, cook them first, pop the rest in the freezer, and then just warm them up in the oven. They're fantastic. They're really good. So just lightly knead. Christy did most of the work there. And then roll it out. And then you can use, if you have a cutter, you can cut them into squares. Use the bottom of a glass, and you can just cut out your little biscuit shapes, and you can kind of see the size there. So that's about the perfect height. And we're going to stick that onto a baking tray, lined with parchment paper. Do the rest later, and then bake them in the oven. So 400 degrees, so a little bit higher. 400 degrees, or about 15 minutes. You can give it a little wash on top with a little olive oil, a little egg wash to get a nice golden brown. But it's pretty quick, pretty simple. And this is what they look like when they're done.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you get a nice little rise.
Gorgeous.
I chefied it out. Just put a little sage leaf on top. You can put, sprinkle some herbs on top if you like. But you have this really nice, you see that golden orange from the butternut squash. They came out nice and fluffy, really delicious.